Hello and welcome to the Traveling Homesteader and Gyroscope Farm. I'm Kathy, and today we're going to be talking about learning how to spin, and not as in bicycle class at the gym. Spinning on the spinning wheel for fiber. And since we've been kind of going along and I've been taking you along the path of fiber processing, this is an additional skill that you can learn if you want to make your own yarn. Now from here, you can actually use it for crocheting, knitting, weaving, or any other sort of knit-related or yarn-related crafts that you might use. In fact, there's a gal that I know, DH Crafting, Jamie. She makes these neat ornaments out of yarn that are gnome ornaments, and she uses yarn for that. And so you may use them for that sort of thing, or you may use them for knitting, like my friend Marilyn does. She has her store over in Burns. Go check her out too. We'll put some different links below for people I know that are using yarn or fiber in different ways that you could use it as well. But today I'd like to introduce you in part to my other tool. We had another episode on different tools we might have to use around the house for different things, and this is one of my tools, you might say, that I use for making. So in this case, with this particular spinning wheel, I make yarn. Now with yarn, you can do 1-ply, 2-ply, 3-ply, 4-ply. You can use bulky weight, lace weight. You can use linen, cotton, wool. You can use a whole variety of different things to make into yarn on something like this. Now, you can use a spinning wheel like this for almost all fibers. It's just a matter of the length of the staple, like we talked about in one other video. In the case of the fleeces that I'll be using today, it's some of the ones that we've had processed, the Romney fleeces, and I'll actually be using 2 different colors to help you see how they come together. But you can create 1-ply, 2-ply, 3-ply, etc. And there's bulky weight, lace weight. These are the different types of weight yarns or plied yarns that you might be able to get into if you haven't already. The one type of spinning that might use a different type of wheel that at least I know about is flax or linen. And they will have a longer staff, you might say, on the spinning wheel that will help in spinning that fiber. And I believe it's because it's an excessively long fiber length or product length. So staple length, I guess you might say. So that's the one that I know about that might have a different setup than we might have here. But for most cases, you'll be able to spin just about any fiber on this type of wheel, which is kind of awesome. So some things that you might want to, if you haven't gotten your own wheel already, you need a wheel. You need to have, in this case, this is what's called an orifice hook. Now this is one that I'd purchased because I liked it, and I liked you can get them in all sorts of different fancy ways, and this was simple enough, and I liked it that it was made by somebody that I knew. And this will be an example of some of the yarn that we'll make today. You can see that's 2-ply because of the 2 different colors, which actually came off 2 of my sheep, Bucky and Lewis, who actually were in this field behind me some time ago. But that's the sort of thing we're going to do. Now, in this case, this particular spinning wheel actually came with its own orifice hook. That's right here, this handy dandy little one. I didn't realize that it came with it, but I had already had this one from my other wheel. But it also, this one actually does come with 3 bobbins. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Now, in some cases, some other spinning wheels do come with more. You can purchase more as you need them. So you may also want to consider, depending on which wheel you have, there are different size bobbins. So in this case, this particular Ashford has this size or a little bit bulkier bobbin. My other one, my traditional, has a little bit smaller size just because of the way it fits in up here. So that's something to consider too when getting your bobbins. Now, if you're not interested in doing spinning this way using your feet, or maybe you can't, there's actually a handy dandy electrical spinner that's on a tabletop. You can actually plug it in and still use your hands. It's basically this part right here, which is really pretty awesome. And that you can use in a similar way in spinning a variety of different fibers. So now as we get started, now that we know kind of some things that we might need, spinning wheel, bobbins, orifice hook, the next thing is fiber. And what I've done is I've taken some of the fiber that I just got processed up at the mill in Lebanon that we've shown in previous episodes. Now, what I've chosen to do is take this dark gray Romney and the white Romney fleece, and we're gonna combine these. But at first, we're gonna do them one at a time. So what this particular, in each of these cases, these bumps are one way that you could have your fiber processed or pick up in a way that's been processed to go to your spinning wheel. Now, there's pencil roving, there's bumps, there's the cloud. I have some that's cloud that's not to this point. And in my case, some of the fleece that I'd gotten was so fine that they couldn't put it into bumps like this, which is fine. You can still spin that sort of thing on your wheel. But we're going to use this as a means of drawing out the fiber. Now, the fibers have all kind of gone in the same direction. That's why they've been combed out this way. As I start showing you this, the basic premise, the first step is to draft, okay, to spread this slightly so that when you put it onto your yarn, the draw will attach to this, and as you start spinning, it will start to spin this. Now, the amount of fiber that you put into the orifice, as you'll see here in a minute, will almost determine the width of the ply of yarn. Now, in my case, I've gotten to the point where I've naturally spun thinner, but as you start spinning, you'll be kind of thick and a little clunky maybe. But then you'll start to find your own groove, and you'll be able to either spin kind of up or down according to what you get used to. So let's get started. As we get looking at our bobbin, you may notice that I have some white thread already on my bobbin. Now, this is just as a leader. This will help you get started. And so you can use any color, any type of yarn that you get, or even thread. This happens to be some embroidery thread that came with this from the store. But I will point out this little blue spot. That is an important piece too, in that if your thread twists, you don't want it to twist. You want it to stay in one place so that this does not spin with the bobbin. So that's something to consider as well. Now, as we look at this, you may see here that there's a hole, and that hole is important, as is this one. And that's where this handy dandy hook comes into. You can see how the thread is wrapped around the bobbin, and I have taped it here so that it doesn't spin. But then we're going to take this thread and we're going to simply hook it into this open hooked eye, and there's a simple opening right here. I just slipped it through, or depending on where you look, you can actually also put it here, and this is a little bit better way to see the open hook. You can see the opening right there. And as we spin, this is going to help guide us on our spool. Now, ultimately, we're going to change to either this eye or this eye over here, and we'll thread through those as needed by simply squeezing it and moving it up and down. This just, you can see that you press this one to that one to squeeze it and slide it along this line. But to get this out here, where we're going to use it here, we need to use the orifice hook. You can see here that there's a hole here and there's a hole here. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep the thread through that hook, and we're going to put the orifice hook into the hole or the orifice and have our hook pop through here. Then what we're going to do is catch the thread in the hook and pull it through the hole. And put it through the hole. You're going to try to, you may have to twist as you go through the hole to help it come through. And there you go. You have it come through, and you're going to pull the thread all the way through. So that's where we start. Then what we're going to do is take our fiber. I've taken just one little end. Now as I start this, I will lay my fiber, probably 8 to 10 inches from the end of my thread. And I'm going to have a thin piece. You can see how rather thin that is. And I'm going to hold it together with the thread. And as I get my treadles going, it'll start to spin together. Now, too, our wheel needs to go to the right for this part. So I'm going to start spinning my wheel to the right. If it goes to the left, it won't work. So for this portion, we need to make sure it goes to the right. And as it starts, the thread starts to thread onto the bobbin. I'm going to continue to draw my fiber. You can see how thin my thread is. You can see here where I've got my black thread started on the bobbin and how the thread is being made. So our tension is right this little button here, which is, you can see there's a line of a fishing line basically right here. You may be able to see it here, right here, and it's hooked to this little hook here to this spring, which goes around back over here, which is different than this, which is attached to the bigger wheel. But this needs to go on a higher or bigger circle or circumference around the bobbin. So that's what I'm going to change here to help it do better. Now, this plastic piece is going to go onto the bobbin. Simple transition over. And literally I just picked it up from one and threw it into the other. Same with this fishing line. It can just simply be picked up and put into the next line. So these are some things that you might want to consider too, is if you ever find that something isn't quite working, check the tension and where these different pieces are. Now as we get back to, I'm going to loosen this tension slightly, and I'm going to get back to spinning. So I've put the thread through the black eye to help with guiding better onto the bobbin. Then I'm going to put it through this gold hook and again bring it back through the orifice with my orifice hook. Pull it through and then get my slightly drawn fiber. Hold both in my left hand so I can make sure my wheel goes to the right. Once it gets going to the right, I start drawing some more, attaching the two together and guiding it through the hole. And now that drawing nicely through the orifice. It's drawing nicely onto the bobbin. I want to keep an even pace. I don't want to go too fast or too slow. So I want to make sure that my yarn can stay kind of consistent. And I'll be now taking this to fill the bobbin. So once my bobbin is completely full, I will be able to blend it together with something else. But I can also do little samples to make sure I can know and see that I like what fiber I'm using. In this case, I'm really liking this Romney. It feels really good, and I like how it's coming together on the bobbin. And as you can see, just sitting nicely in the middle of the bobbin. Now the other thing, I'm going to let this hang for a minute while I adjust, but it's okay that there's like a bigger bump here than over here. I can kind of blend that out a little bit. So now I'm going to actually switch over bobbins, and now I'll properly show you how to put on that initial starter thread, that leader thread. Now I just happen to get a red. It's just a commercially spun yarn, very different than my yarn I'm going to be spinning. And all I do is take a loop and put it around the core of the new bobbin. Okay, and it's just a simple thing I do. Essentially, here's the loop around my finger. I'm going to take the opposite side and pull those strings through. So you can kind of see there how I do it. Another way besides the tape that you can do this is just make another knot. So you can see I have two ends. And so what I'm going to do is make a knot right there. That's another way that you can help if you don't have any tape around, that you can help this middle part from rolling around the bobbin when you start a new thread. And it's just as tight a knot as you can get. Now by doing this, you should have this be pretty stable. It might pull slightly, but not continuously like it's loose. Now I'm going to actually switch my bobbins out and start on my other ply of yarn. So as you can see, it takes some time and some patience to get used to it. This didn't come easy to me. So with some time and some practice, you too can make this look this way or easier. There are women that I've known that have been doing this for well beyond what I've been doing and make spinning look so natural and easy and can have the skills of a master. The next thing I will point out, though, is that in order to take care of your spinning wheel, you do need to add some oil. After all, it is a machine, and it does need some help along the way to help it run smoothly. Now, before I get into plying, I will show you that there are some spots that you should add some oil, and there's little containers that you can use to do that, to get right into the points. But some points that you might want to oil are right here when there's metal on metal. So this spot right here, where the bobbin meets and here at both ends. So you want to go here and back here as the main 3 places to oil your wheel. There are spaces down here that you can do that, but the main 3 places really are at the bobbin. And I don't know if I pointed out to you, but I also have my fiber in a basket that's height appropriate. I happen to be using some old milk crates for the time being, but I do have another basket that I use as well. So these are some added things that you might want to consider when you start spinning, is just having something to put your fiber in to spin out of, having oil, but then also knowing the tension on your wheel to help it pull into the bobbin nicely and easily. But the last tool that you'll need is something called a lazy Kate versus a lazy Susan. So the Susan is the tabletop one that you put your plates on. The lazy Kate is what you put your bobbins on. And as you can see, there's 3 parts to it with a basic pin at each base or each section. And what we'll do is you can see that this bobbin is here. You can put up to 3 bobbins on this particular lazy Kate at one time. And so like I mentioned earlier, that this is one type of bobbin. It's very different than the one I've been spinning on. It's just because it was meant for a different wheel. So you can see kind of different sizes, different colors, different shape. But the benefit is that you can use this lazy Kate with, even though they're different styles maybe of bobbins, as long as they're the same height, it'll work. Now, in this case, we do need 3 bobbins to make a 2-ply yarn. And we need 3 because we're going to have one empty one that goes on our wheel. Okay, we're going to ply onto that. But we then need the 2 that we just spun, the black and the white, to go on the lazy Kate. So that's why we're going to kind of put this all together. So first things first, we're going to take the white threaded bobbin off the wheel, just since it's right in front of me. And as you see, this is the bobbin part. And essentially what I need to have to take off is this right here. So I simply take off, I say simply, but this piece comes off. There, see, we can take it apart. So this goes back on my wheel. This comes onto the lazy Kate, and then we have this piece that we'll put the other bobbin onto in just a moment. So as you can see, I have this bobbin, and there is this hole that goes all the way through the other side. And then you can see I have this pin that I took out, and I simply put the bobbin between the 2 pegs and slide the pin into the holes to have it be able to spin around. And it goes through the other side, and it'll come through here just like that. So you can see that fits nicely. Now I'm going to take the other bobbin and put it right here. So here's my other bobbin, and do the same thing. Right through the hole, catch the other side, and there we go. Now we're going to stand this on the ground and pull from it as we ply. But I did want to show you, when we initially start, okay, we're going to take our bobbin and we're going to put it on our shaft here of our piece, okay, and then we're going to put the plastic is going to then go on there, okay, and then we're simply going to place, so once we have the plastic or the rubber band essentially on our bobbin, we're going to make sure that the tension wire goes on here. And for what tension I like it on the outer, on the larger section. We're going to make sure this kind of presses back into the orifice back here, while this, we're going to have this piece go in that hole. And then we're going to push back and push everything in so that this then can set in here. Again, we have to kind of play with this sometimes to get it to set right. There. So sometimes it takes a little bit, but it does adjust through here to get in right. Then we take our band and we put it around the larger wheel at the bottom. And again, I like to have it on the outer line versus the inside one for the tension that I like. So as you can see, I have my two bobbins ready on my Lazy Kate. They both are coming off the same side. So the white is coming off the top. The bottom one is coming off the top side too. And what I'm going to do is try to keep them as separate as I can. You can see they're kind of twisting already. Yeah, as we get this hooked up, and feed it on through, and there we go. So after a little work, we're getting it to pull on through. And you can see now how it's plying together. And the faster you go, the tighter you go, the more twists you'll get. Thanks for stopping by to check out how to learn spinning. And if you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and leave a comment if you've been a spinner before, or if you've started spinning for the first time. Hopefully today you've been able to learn how to draft and ply and kind of see how it is to spin fiber from the bump. And hopefully spinning will become something of a relaxing hobby for you, like it has for me. I know when I first started spinning, I was told a story about a couple getting married and how the fiancé asked his bride-to-be to please sit down and spin for them both so they both could relax before the wedding. Hopefully, you'll be able to see some relaxation as well. And thanks again, and I hope to see you again soon on the Traveling Homesteader.